All right, we're in the room beside where I just was. This is a full instrument, taken halfway apart because of the most confusing thing that's going to take a little bit of maybe doing it once or twice is how you put the tubes on the instrument. So when you get the instrument, you go through the process of what we just did as far as putting the tube brace and the angle braces. Then you put in rails 2 and 3, and then you stop. The next thing that goes on after rails 2 and 3 are going to be the resonator tubes. So when you get your instrument, it will include brackets. There's 4 brackets that look like this. They have this shape. A small one is bigger, then one's for that are attached to rails, also rail number 3. Now, this bracket does not go here. They do not interchange. The angles are specific to a particular rail. They're also numbered where there's a number stamped up here on this plate, on the big plate. So this is stamped 2, this one's stamped 2, that means it goes to rail 2. And obviously the big one goes to the low end of the instrument, the high one goes to the higher end. So you have this part together, you have rails 2 and 3 set into the frame, then you add these brackets. This one's got a mind of its own. Now when you put these on, you want them to be snug. What they're going to do is initially they're going to hold the weight of each section so that you never have to lift the entire bank of tubes. With these being brass, it'd be really pretty darn heavy. So you're going to take the low end of the section, set here, it's going to rest on this bracket. You can walk away, get the middle section, then it's going to set on this bracket. When it does that, it will lift off of the low bracket. And then when you add the high end, then it sets on the end blocks and lifts up off these brackets. So sets on the end block and then on the bracket. Now, it's got a little kink to it. That's because of the weight being offset. But as you add the final section, everything comes back into line. So don't be, this is not going to be scary. Well, it is a little bit scary, but don't be afraid of it that it's doing something wrong. It will twist a little bit, but that'll self-correct when the whole thing goes together. It's the middle section. Now you see it's got bolts out here to the end and bolts farther in. The ones that are farther in, obviously, are going to go into the slots. So that's going to engage first. So that slides in. You want to make sure that before you do that the wing nuts are kind of backed off so that there is space. Then you're going to rotate up, and then with a little bit of lift, you're going to engage these brackets. Okay, so now we're off this bracket, but we're on this one. and the tilt has gone almost all the way away. So the last piece, as far as the resonators, is the high end section. I'll go ahead and back these wing nuts off to make sure. On this one, you want to make sure that the angle is fairly severe, almost 90 degrees, because you don't want to have it too flat, because if it's flat, you could easily come across the top of the frame end and it cause some unsightly damage. Slides into the slots. And you're gonna rotate it down. It's gonna set on the end block. It's gonna be tight. Swing these clips down to engage the bolt. Tighten everything. Okay. So the upper bank section is exactly the same. You add the low section, bring in the middle section, slide it, pull it up, run the clips down. It'll be setting on this bracket here. So the high end, the final section comes into the slots, lift it up, swing the clips down, and then that's it. So the final thing then is to add the outside rail. You just remember that the rails are numbered right here in the middle joint. That's it. So the final thing is to add the bars. I'll try to do this myself. I don't know why. They have the instrument fairly high. Actually, I'm going to lower it down. On all the instruments, they work with a crank, and on the outside tube, there's a series of dots, small dot, large dot, so you can orient yourself while you're halfway between one on one. Then you can match the other end. You also see this nut here. That's put in there to take the slack out of the inside tube going into the outside tube. Just leave it. It's not meant to be tightened with we just tighten it hand tight. That's all you need. And it stays. All right. This is easier with two people. Now, one thing that you want to avoid, mainly is this happens when you're taking the bars off the keyboard, is that you lift the keyboard up and the bars in then fall in between the pins and sets on the frame. That's not a bad thing that it's setting on the frame necessarily, but then when you pick it up, what happens is the bars come up at an angle and they scrape against the edges of the pins. So then you end up putting bars on your bars. So you want to be careful with that. It's possible that when you have the bars on the keyboard, you're trying to get the string, it's like, oh, things don't fit because the rails are not, but that's because the bars can be holding them at the wrong distance. And then I think all of my instruments that are strong, we use a single spring tied on one end, and then it has a washer. So pull the cord tight, pull on the free end of the cord, slide the washer up to the top of the spring, and it stays in place, and that's how that works. So when you want to take the keyboard off, just kind of pull the washer, and you've removed all the tension. Okay, that's it.